Hello everybody, welcome to the Sweet Sentiment Surfs Up retreat, virtual retreat. I am Marcia Carabinza. I've been with Jamie for a little while now, and I'm gonna break up my video into multiple chunks, pre-recorded, so that it's easier for me and easier for people viewing again. So let's just get started. I'll be using Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers to color these three images. And we will add these images later to a see-through tool shaker tag. Jamie included tool that you can use for the tag as well as a shaker mix. So for this section, we're just gonna work on coloring, I believe this is a Dumbo octopus, shark, and a crab. Okay, so I'm gonna begin with the crab. I've decided I want to do a blue crab. Those are the popular crabs here in this area. So I'm going to start with actually a fair skin blend, tri-blend. I'm going to use the fair skin tone, which is FS6. And these guys are actually kind of a skin color, if you will, on their little bellies. Kind of flicking the color around a little bit. And I think I'm just going to do this first leg segment with this color and work on just the underside of his arms. I guess you can call them arms, right? Crabbing is a big deal. Seafood in general. I've grown up on the coast, so we eat these guys, and they're very tasty. My husband goes out with my daughter, and they love to go crabbing, especially my youngest one. I'm sorry, I switched to the darker tone, which is FS8. Now I'm going to go back to that lighter tone. Sorry if it's wiggling. I'm trying to see if I can get better lighting here. Lighting here in the house seems to be kind of tricky most of the time, at best. And if you see, I think that's what we'll do there. Now for the claw, we are going to build just a touch of red here on just the major pincher. So I'm actually going to start with a pink. I'm going to use the pale pink blend and the darker tone, which is Pp3. I just want to do it here. You see, I'm just kind of scribbling the color, if you will, in there. And I will be sharing these projects live. If you have any questions, and now I'm going to the dark red blend, DR1, that lighter shade. If you do have any questions, please pop them in the event. I will be checking in, dotting the color here. I just have a lot of distractions, especially on the weekends. Usually the only time I get to do coloring, and especially trying to do any kind of video, is at night. Going back to that darker pink. One thing I try to remember, especially when coloring some of these things, there's a couple different ways you can work on it, I suppose. Nature usually doesn't have very perfect lines and even gradations in some things, so keep that in mind. Don't be too hard on yourself when you're working on some of these colorings. Now I'm going to use the True Blue blend. I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to start with the darker blend, which is that T8 or TB4. There's really not a lot of deeper blue tones here, and you'll see I'm going to try to use more dots for some of these things here, because there's usually not a nice solid color pattern on these dudes, if you've ever had the pleasure of dealing with them in real life. Now I'm just gonna jump right to that lighter tone on purpose, which is TB2. I don't want to try to make a purple here. I'll use a colorless blender to work some of that color there, that color margin. But we might be able to do well enough with that. And you see I'm just pulling just down his little arm. I might even dot it up a bit on that upper segment of his leg. Pull it around here. And yes, these are the older tri-blends. I have a couple of the brush nib ones, the newer ones. I haven't played with them yet, to be honest with you. I still have juice in these. So I really don't want to mess with that too much. I'm just gonna add some dotties here. I'm gonna go in with the mid blue tone. I'm gonna dot some off here. I just wanna see how bright it is. And then I'm just gonna add some wee little bumpies, because they do have little bumpy nodules on them. Not too many. If they looked this cute, I doubt my daughters would eat them. Let me tell you, my husband can make a mean crab cake. Back to the lighter blue. I'm just trying to soften some of those dotties. Now I want to go in with a colorless blender. You can use any brand for this, and I want to try to see if I can get rid of some of the blue that bled over his little eyeball socket. And right here a little bit, and I'm going to go over the belly just a bit to smooth that out. Here where these colors come together. And now to color his wee little tongue, we're gonna go in with that darker pink from the pale pink blend, the PP3. A dot of that dark red blend, the lightest tone, just right there on the corner, the inner corner. And then we're gonna use that darker pink again just to kind of, I just usually dot, especially in the smaller places, to blend it, if you will, a little bit right there. I'm satisfied with that. I'm gonna take this lighter blue again. I said I was satisfied. Add some wee dots like crabby freckles, right? Crabbies can have freckles too, right? Maybe I'll do a little loop here for eyes, a little bit. And there's my Mr. Krabby. I'm gonna go ahead and add, I love to use a white gel pen to add. I'm trying not to block too much here, but still see what I'm doing. Just see the tiniest little dot there, just off to the side. And we'll come in here and add some wee dots here. I'm not the person you'll see that does the reflection lines so much on things, unless it's like a glass or something that really does reflect. Add some wee bumpy dots there. Some of these are probably more for me than they are for the Krabby. I'm gonna clean up right underneath his little mouth where that color bled. Again, that's just me being very particular. Okay, so I call Mr. Krabby Pants done. So we'll move him off to the side. And now let's work on Dumbo Octopus. I believe this is a Dumbo Octopus. That's what I'm calling him anyways. So I'm going to use purple lavender colors and pull out that dark pink tri-blend again. This one is the lavender blend. I'm gonna start with the darker and just kind of work back and forth. But if you guys are familiar with the tri-blends, it's always a dark, a mid, and a light tone within one marker, which is really nice for people who struggle with color blends. So I'm gonna go ahead and add my shadow spots here. It's always interesting to see if you get the shadows right. You know, when you get things blended out, you go and you look and you go, oh geez, I don't know that I quite put that in the right spot. Sometimes you just kind of have to work with it. So I'm not gonna go up against the sideline there. I'm just going to do a little swipey here, scribbly a little bit, and then we're gonna pull up just a little bit. And then again, just on this side, just like that. That's where I'm gonna start with it anyways. Now I'm moving to that mid-tone. I'm gonna add just a bit right, and I'm doing scribbly scribblies on purpose. I'm gonna pull just a little bit there. Scribbly scribblies, boop boop. And over here, over what look like Dumbo ears, but we know he doesn't have Dumbo ears for real. Now to the lightest tone, LV1. And I will be using a pink. Hopefully, we'll see how that works. Sometimes these purples don't blend as well. And I would be using the Spectrum, or not, forgive me, I'm using Spectrum markers. I would be using the Sweet Sentiment paper. I'm just afraid it would jack up my printer. It's thicker, and I just got that printer, so I really just don't want to risk it. But I do really love Jamie's print paper, especially with watercoloring. I think that's like my favorite thing to use for that. All right, now I'm going to move to that. Maybe we'll start with, I guess we'll go to the darker blend, and we'll work there and then blend in color as we need. I might have to go over it again with that purple, but at least, oh yeah, I probably will. You know what? I'm gonna shift. See, this is what we do, right? I'm gonna go right to the lighter color. Oh no, my marker's drying out. Okay, mid-tone then. I'm gonna go in and work all these, pull in where I left all that white space. Don't worry, I know it looks really bizarro right now. We will work on that. So I hope you enjoy this retreat. I know we had to postpone it, so I'm glad many of you guys were able to work that into your schedules. Yes, these markers are a bit squeaky. Okay, so now that I've got that blanket of pink down, and yes, I'll clean up here with a white gel pen. I'll probably do that off. Now I'm gonna go back in with that lighter purple again and go over it mostly. Okay, so we've got really wet surface here with the ink from the pink. Haha, I totally Dr. Seuss'd that on purpose. And you'll see that this purple color covers it, but not quite as much as it did when we didn't have any of that pink laid down first. If that makes any sense. So I'm gonna just come in here. Scribbly over. Before I come in with that pink again, I want to reinforce this darker bit just a little in some spots. Just like that. I'm gonna come in with this lighter pink again. And now we're just gonna scribble. Oh, I said mid-pink, forgive me. I forgot my lighter was out all just that fast. And we're just gonna come over and pull here. Oh, I need to get that tentacle a little bit more. That lighter purple again. I'm just not happy with how pinky that is right there, so I want to pretty content with that. I do want to darken up. Oops, it's hard for me to see at this angle, forgive me. Pull in just, if you guys are perfectionists too. And again, I'm not going to clean up my lines there, nor will I fussy cut this on the video. I don't feel like you need to see me do that. Greatest apologies if you thought that would be helpful. And I'm going to go in and do the little reflective dots, and I might actually come in and do if you see what I'm doing, just some little dots there, here, across his arms, and I won't mess with those. And yeah, like I said, I say I always wait to clean up, but while I've got the pen out, I might as well clean up. Just that's one of my tricks and tips that a lot of people have shared as well, is using your white gel pen to clean up around the edges, especially when it comes to anything with a red tone. It does not like to disappear with a blender. Sometimes it just smushies everywhere. Okay, so now we've got Dumbo Octopus done. Mr. Blue Crab, I might darken up his belly a little bit, but we'll see how I feel about that. Now let's move on to Mr. Shark. Now, let me pull this up over here. I love to have visuals on hand. If I remember correctly, they've got paler bellies and a little bit darker tops, and that's just so when fish see them from underneath, they blend in with the reflection from the surface of the water and vice versa from below. So we're going to leave his underbelly a lighter color. So for that, I'm going to use my brown gray blend. I'm going to use the lightest one. I believe this might be a newer marker, so it might be okay. I'm going to just come in right under his belly, just like this. Nothing too crazy. And I will use my blender marker to pull some of that color out. And he should be, let me just find a better picture here. So he's going to be, I'm going to have right in this point, if you will, and we'll work on that color. This is where he's going to be. Some of that white, and the tail is definitely the color. So I'm going to do a little bit of this where I know we're going to create the color margin, if you will. Again, the underside of the fins will be that color. Now we're going to shift to that lighter blue again, the tri-blend blue, that lightest tone. And I'm going to just start applying color here. In my opinion, sharks are more a gray-blue. The tri-blends don't really have that tone unless it's in one of those other packs they released. So in this case, what I'm going to do is do some color layering, and you guys can definitely do this as well. So I think that's what's fun, is to share ways to use what you have without having to go buy a whole nother series of colors to color an image you might not color that often. I'm going to come in with that mid-tone. We're going to just come in around the fins here. If I was doing this the way my daughter would like, she likes mako sharks and black tips. So you could definitely color it to match your favorite shark. I mean, because who doesn't have a favorite shark? And here's where we're going to kind of do a thing there. not mean to do that, guys. Right there. Come in with that lighter tone again. And I'm just going over that darker ink and pulling it towards my lighter. You can color, you can color all of these however you want, really. This is just how I'm doing it. You can do a cutie rub crab. Again, I like to color things the way that, I associate with them myself. Oh, and we actually caught a shark once with the girls. I am not a fisher person by any stretch of the imagination. I actually kind of like them just like that. We might throw a little bit of this light gray in here. Just again in the shadow areas for extra fun depth. And you'll see how that can kind of deepen those colors up a bit. Not deepen, I don't mean like darken. Pull down here. Again, lighter blue tone. You don't have to keep going over it like me. But oops, I didn't mean to go blue there. It doesn't matter, I didn't do much. So now I'm gonna use my colorless blender to kind of fade the gray out. That's usually what I do. If there's just a touch of color there, I usually put my shadow line in and then use a really juicy colorless blender to kind of fade those lines a little bit. I see I need to go in here with that lighter gray. And this is where you can come back in and add extras in if you feel you need to. And I do love to add that little bit of pink along the inside of their gums. They have that there. I don't want the purple though. Ooh, I put the wrong caps. No wonder I'm confused. I grabbed the wrong marker. So I'm gonna get that pale pink that we've been, oh my goodness, what did I do here? Oh, I swapped ends. Swapped marker ends. Okay, so we're gonna use, for real, the pale pink blend. That pink one, and we're just gonna dot it right here along his gum line. I love how that little bit looks. Now let's add some pink to his tongue. I'm gonna use the darker of that pale pink. Ooh. Just there. Very lightly pull out. Let's see if I can use the blender to correct here where I went messily around his eyeball. And then I think for his eyeball, we might just go with a darker gray and see how that looks. Oh, that's dry as a bone. See, guys? You see which markers I use most often. See, I went sloppy again. I'm gonna use the mid-tone in the brown-gray blend. I don't know if I like him with a gray eye, but that's what he's got now. Use that blender and kind of soften that up a little bit. All right, so there's our Mr. Shark. He already has the white dot there. So what I'll do is I'm gonna add another one. I'm gonna do more kind of a line here, reflection, and dab it with my finger. And then we'll do another smaller dot right here, just off just off there. And we can, I know I said I don't do this, but sharks are softer bodied and might have a little bit of line reflection there and across his dorsal fin. And that's kind of hard to see on this because he's light in color. Fixing where the blue blood, and there we go. All right, so we have these three colored here. Let me add a little bit darker here too. You know what, I'm gonna use a gray for the crabby's belly a little bit. I'm gonna use that mid brown gray blend and see if we can darken that up just a little bit. I didn't bring any browns over, but oh yeah, I think that will work nicely. I'm going to go back to that lighter skin tone wherever I happen to put it. Is this it? Fair Skin Blend, that lighter tone. Again, we're going to pull that out. I know it looks very scribbly. And then I'm going to get my blender marker again. We're going to go over this middle bit. I like that it's not a seamless blend there. I know we're drawing a cartoon crab, but that's, to me, that's just not as natural for these guys. If you look at pictures of them, they've got very modeled little bodies. And for that little bit of his mouth, let me see if I can get in there without messing it up. I'm gonna use just a darker brown gray. I might have to move it so you can't see, or risk like I just did. Getting it outside of his mouth. All right, guys, so that commences my coloring of these sea critters. I hope you enjoyed that portion, and be sure to check out the assembly of the double-ended tool shaker card. Thanks, guys.